everyone, it's Carolyn here to share more channeled messages. This time we have another conversation with Jennifer and myself. Many of you have enjoyed these conversations because they're a little different than what I typically do. Jennifer and I get together and we kind of just start talking about different topics. She and I have worked together for quite some time and we've just decided now to start doing more regular videos. So this one's kind of a mashup. And I want to explain it because it might get a little confusing. I did not edit much out at all in the conversation, although I had considered doing so, because we actually touch on Mars in here, which, as you're listening, you may say, I don't understand how this, and you'll hear me say this, I don't understand how this connects at all. And then she actually clarifies that. It still can be a little confusing, potentially, but I left it in, all right, because we then touch on Mars in, I want to say, through the middle of, I think, what's almost an hour-long video, again, of our conversation. But I just want you to know I have not edited this at all, so you might have a few little pieces in there where you're like, what? I don't understand how that connects. But hopefully you'll make those connections, because as I was editing it, I thought, no, I'm going to leave all that in. So here's what we're going to cover today, and they all link, all right? And I'm just giving you some quick topics. We're going to talk about the upside down. And we're going to talk about the universe inside of us, the observer, and non-judgment. We're going to talk about magnetics. Remember, all this links, okay? And you'll see how this threads through. We're going to talk about the reality of illusion as well. And we're going to talk about Alice in Wonderland. She shows up too. So, anyway, it's really a montage of our conversation, which frankly, I love these because we can hit on so many different topics, but then thread our way back into an understanding of a central pathway. So again, it's Jennifer and myself. I hope you enjoy this. And you'll see throughout it where I try to make sure that we're bringing it back to something that you can actually take away and apply into your own journey. So before we get going, I just want to share a little bit what's been going on with me. First of all, I have a new book. One of my clients, actually, who was in one of my videos previously, similar to what Jennifer does, recommended this book. If you guys haven't read this, The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. Okay, so these, to me, so far, this is really the missing years and missing knowledge of the life of Yeshua, or Jesus, as we know him in the Western world. I'm probably a third of the way through, and I just could sit all day and read. It was channeled in the early 1900s by a gentleman named Levi Dowling, and he actually gained access to the Akashic records. You can read more about him. I'm just going to say I'm finding this to be a read that I really needed right now. It's fascinating. If you enjoy picking up new books on spirituality, particularly Aquarian Age Gospel, which we're in the Aquarian Age energies now, so we're moving forward, and I just, that showed up. And I am really delving into it. So just a tip for you if you're interested in a new book. And then secondarily, I just have to say, oh my gosh, this summer, as I'm looking at us moving into September and having just put out the September energy update, oh my heavens, the massive June, July, and August shift and change that we have gone through individually. And, actually in the videos that I've done previously, they started predicting this back in January, that June, July, and August were looking different. It was going to be all about individual growth. I just can't tell you how glad I am that August is done. But then we never know what the next months are going to be like, right? But it is clearly going to be different for us. I have found out more clients right now that I'm talking to, because that's really my knowledge base, as well as me and some of my friends going through this awakening and ascension journey, but are really starting to kind of reflect what's coming up in the September energy update video that I just recently put out, which is really moving out more into the collective. Now, I'll just summarize it that way, but you can listen to the video if you haven't already. And how we're doing that all individually, how we're kind of being called, and I just said the word called, to do that in whatever way that makes sense for us. So anyway, I hope your journey into September is going well, and we will just see what shows up for us, won't we? Anyway, so today I'm going to share with you Jennifer's and my conversation, and I hope you take at least a few things away. But first of all, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carolyn. I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And typically my videos are the Light Keepers channeling, a group of angelic beings who I channel, who assist you on your ascension and your awakening journey. And you can see how they actually showed up for me on one of my introductory videos on my channel. So it's been a fascinating, I guess now, honestly, it's been probably about 4 years of having conversation with them regularly. So I've also added now some new conversation like you're going to see today with Jennifer. So check out below in the description box if you'd like to join me in other ways. I offer weekly emails through the link below where first of all, you get a video on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness. And as we know, with all these energies, our body is the vessel we travel in. So it's super important to be able to create that flow and to create that healthy vessel. So check that out. It'll send you actually to a weekly email that you'll receive from me. But it's a channel from the Light Keepers to support you on the coming week. Those show up Friday or Saturday in your email box from me. That said, I also have a Facebook page, Purple Rain Healing. You can go out to where I post all their poems. So it's just more supportive, energetic words for you to carry forward because they do carry divine energy in those words, I have been told. So with that today, I'm just going to get going straight into the video. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, and I'll close out with you briefly at the end. Did you have something pop in that they said we need to talk about, or what?
There's Carolyn, it's so crazy. If I don't keep track of things almost moment to moment, just this morning alone, there's been so much that has unraveled, has come open, has opened up to me. And I'm seeing the correlations between my story here as my girl on earth with my children and my family, some of the difficulties or things that I've had with family members. And I'm watching with my son's assistance, because as you know, he's so multidimensionally, he's tied into everything.
Right.
And with our communication and as with my team, I'm watching how this is unraveling and how connected to these other larger stories that are going on in other realms, dimensions, even stories, things that we've heard, like they seem like a past story. It could be of another realm. It could be in another, another culture, anything. It could be Avalon. It could be Atlantis. It could be Egypt. It could be full like the Galactic Federation and some of the political issues they've had. It could be, and how it's all tied in. And this morning, I don't know how familiar you are with what the kind of galactic situation with Mars right now.
Now? You mean right now in 3D right now?
Yes, kind of what's happening, kind of simultaneously what's happening with what's going on with Mars and how that's actually tied into my story and what happened to me on a human level. It's really blows my mind how much entanglement, how intertwined we are.
Totally agree with you. Yes.
We don't realize that on our human level, we think this is just our human thing. We hear about some of these galactic things and wow, well, as if we are watching it happen, and it's so far away from us. And what I'm, realizing more and more when they say the universe is inside you, you kind of think of this, oh, that's amazing, but you don't really put it into full conceptual understanding until some of these things start occurring. You realize you are not observing. It is all actually happening within you.
Yes.
You are the platform. You are the landscape in which this massive galactic story is playing out.
It's that whole idea.
Yes.
What's that?
And you think you're hearing about this thing that's going on far, far away in a galaxy, blah, blah, blah. It's actually happening within you. You are the one who's actually providing the landscape for that to occur. And you think you're this little human on Earth somewhere, right?
And I think too, when those few moments where all of a sudden you make that 3D human connection to the story and going, wait a minute. I mean, you're not, it's almost like, oh, wait, that's part of me. That's my story. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that,
yes.
There's an overlay of what's happening in my 3D,
right?
What's happening out there. And you start getting those little blips of things. Mm-hmm. Yes. Because we've manifested this whole thing.
We don't have any idea in so many ways. I mean, I've heard this many times in my waking up process, when channels or different things come in, they say, you guys have no idea how powerful you are. You have no idea how massive your being is.
Right.
You really, they're saying you don't have no idea how important of a role that you're playing in all that is. And, we hear these things and we think, oh, wow, that's so neat, but we actually have no concept of it until some of this stuff starts to happen. And
Well, and
I'm
we start,
telling you,
right, and we start
we
waking
are
up.
pivotal to it. We are actually providing the creator source energy for that to even happen.
Yes, and we're starting to wake up.
My sons agree.
I love that. As we start to awaken to this, we start seeing this more, because what's happened for so long is we've just been viewing outside or inside a house, outside a window, thinking, oh, look what's happening. Oh, look what's happening. Because we think we're small. We just think we're being done to all the time. And we've been taught that. I mean, that's how we've been taught as humans, that everything that's happening, we're not manifestors of our own reality. It's all external to us. And no wonder we don't see that piece until we start to wake up, that we're part of it all.
My son, when we talk a lot like this, there's so much energy that comes in and around. So I've got kind of an entourage coming into my head, and my son is responding to it. So I apologize. Dogs barking. My son.
No, I love it. It's great.
But I think that when I'm beginning to understand, even though it's hard to fully conceptualize, but we are the projector of everything. We, in this expression, are the energy that projects all of this galactic, all of this history, all of this other timelines. And we think, sometimes we hear things like, oh, I think I was so-and-so in this lifetime, and I played a role as this little person in this little story that I've heard about, right? And it's almost like it's cute in a way now when you see it, that you're everything. You're the reason why that was possible. The energy that we actually embody in this life as this human 3D person who's veiled, right? Which is, like, it's ironic in a way.
Our power is veiled too. I mean, we have to reclaim our own power and realize who we really are. And when you start realizing that, you also realize how small we've become, right? And
how small we believe ourselves to be.
Right. If that's a better way of saying it. Exactly. Because we haven't changed. We still have that within us, but we've never had the understanding that we have all that power. And that's what this journey is all about. And that's when also we start realizing, oh my gosh, like, especially now, thoughts are things. And as we start thinking, things become more real, as we start coming into reclaiming who we truly are. And then you start seeing the one-to-one correspondence to that, and that reclaiming, and then that creation that happens.
Yes. So with Mars, for instance, there is a group on Mars who was apparently kicked off of the planet, and they refused to go too far. They only moved to Mars, and they are staying there, and they are insisting that they reclaim Earth, that Earth is their home, and that they're not going anywhere. So
okay, hold on. Okay, because I got to add something, because I'm just getting something now, and you can tell me that I'm crazy, because I thought you were talking about there's some 3D thing going on in our world with Mars. I know that we're apparently, I don't know, going to Mars or something, whatever. Anyway, what they're saying to me is, what you just said, is it any wonder humans are getting ready to go to Mars or are on Mars? Does that make sense to you at all, what I just got?
It does, because there's a mix-up, in my opinion. This is what has happened from my interpretation. There was a switch out. There was a cover and a switch out. Okay, so nothing appears as it is. Those beings that appear to be the so-called dark ones, and then the ones that are the light ones that are running the advance against them.
What do you mean, the advance against whom? Who?
The beings on Mars.
Okay.
So the beings on Mars all appear to be one thing, but a lot of time in the past, my team has brought me different parables. Okay. One of those was, I spoke to you about this before, it was the truth and the lie swimming together in the well, and the lie getting out and stealing the truth's clothes.
Oh, yeah.
And the lie has been walking the earth in the truth's clothes ever since. And then the truth got out of the well naked. And in her, the naked truth was like rebuked almost by, and nobody wanting to see the naked truth, like went back and went back and got in the well and has been hiding
Oh, that's a
since.
good metaphor. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So basically they were trying to show me this little trick that went down where there was a switch out. So you've got the lie masquerading in the truth's clothes, but you've also got the reverse of that. You've got the truth in what appears to be the dark.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's a crossover event that happened. And I believe that some of the stuff that we understand that is going on in Mars right now is actually a result of there being a imposter situation.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there real quick. I need to, I think for our audience, we have to clarify what we're talking about. So when we're talking about what's going on in Mars, are you talking about in a more 5G kind of information
Yes,
way or 3D? Because that's going to be confusing.
Right. So three-dimensionally, we are exploring Mars. We're seeing if we can land on Mars, these types of things.
Yes, but what I'm getting is what I'm getting is that's for purpose because it's tied to the information you're getting, if that makes sense. So go ahead. So we're talking about
we're talking about multiple planes of existence, and we say that some are future past, but actually everything is happening now, and they are all tied to each other. But for this reality, there's like with Musk, Elon Musk and these types of things, they're trying to land on Mars. But what I'm talking about, there's actually galactic activity with different groups: Anunnaki, Greys, Martians. There's Nibiru's involved, the Draconians are involved, and there is what we know as a Galactic Federation of Light. So, that group. Okay, so on that plane, on that galactic level, which we are all still participants on, there is something going on. And I'm seeing how that story is actually tied into my personal Jennifer's 3D human life, and how the same storyline that I'm listening to happening on that plane is actually tied into some of the experiences that I've had here, and they are running in tandem with each other.
Okay, so how does that then tie into what we were talking about with the well and you were talking about the truth and the lie and what's happening on Mars? Because we're kind of, I don't know if we're talking about.
So what's happening on Mars, so basically there is a confrontation occurring between the light, so the Galactic Federation of Light, and all of the beings on Mars. But how I'm watching it, I'm playing it as my son and I are kind of walking through some of this stuff. We're seeing how the ones that are presenting themselves as light, and then the ones that are actually on Mars insisting that Earth is their home.
Yes.
There was a switch. They're not being seen for who they really are.
Okay, so how does that relate to people today? What are we taking away from this? I know we're going to talk more about it, but how does what are we learning from what are we learning from this?
I think the takeaway, at least for me, I'm saying everybody needs to cool their jets, calm down, and back up, because nothing is as it appears to be.
What do you mean calm down and cool your jets? Like what with respect to what?
With any kind of confrontation, dark, light, the good, the bad.
Oh, in other words, what we're seeing, we can't define necessarily as dark light. It's a mix. We don't know now. We just need to be observers and be how do I want to say this? And just keep stepping into our own journey. I mean,
in your own integrity. Yeah, I that's kind of, as a what I would give to anybody in any situation, regardless of what plane I'm speaking to. I would say everybody needs to stand down, back out of the conflict.
Okay, what is that? Okay, I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I want to make sure this is clear for people. They take something away for themselves.
Yes.
So what does that mean, stand down?
I would say
so stand down. What are they to do, and why are they doing, why are they needing to do something?
On this level, I think it's more of the desire to judge, desire to decide what is good, what is evil, what is light, what is dark.
Meaning in their current life, what happens and comes to them like staying away from the judgment side of things, just living in non-judgment and being being the observer.
Being the observer and not, and realizing everything is not always as it appears. We are in a
Well, they
reality.
said it's the upside down. We've been told it's the upside down.
We are in a reality of illusion. Okay. And so not only on on a typical day, but also in some of these where we are looking at things, like a lot of the things that are going on in this, they don't seem to make sense. People don't seem to be acting correct for the situation. There's behaviors that are going on. It just doesn't seem right. So I would say for us on this level, and those that are awakening, stay in your own integrity, use your own discernment, stay in your core frequency of what you know you to be, and try not to engage or commit to a judgment of any group or other individual. Because now more than ever, what we see is not what it appears to be.
Agree. Yes. Okay. So this is similar to the information that I brought through, but I bring it through in a different way. So this is helpful to actually get this clarity. So, because we've talked about the upside down, how you don't really know. So I guess, and then I want to get back to Mars. So the day-to-day living arrangement that we all have, because we're all here in 3D, we still have choices to make as to what we choose to do, who we choose to make commitments with, who we work with, all of that, right? So doing it from how you feel about the situation, you still have to make a choice lots of times. We can't just say, oh, I'm going to be the observer and do absolutely nothing all day long, right?
Correct. Right.
So it's coming from that feeling, but not judging it, but going basically into the heart space to feel what your decision should be.
Yes.
Rather than going from the intellectual mind and doing this back and forth judgment thing we do of good, bad, indifferent. Is that
we
correct?
put so much pressure, yes, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to take a side.
Yeah, right.
And I would say at this point, do yourself a huge favor and separate yourself from the desire or the need or the that you feel that you must take a side. You don't necessarily have to. You can see both sides, but you don't have to commit yourself to anything except your own integrity.
Yes, which is why this also ties, and I know I get kind of practical, but I'm trying to do this because this also ties to the whole idea of get yourself out of all the news and all the stuff that's going on and all that whirly stuff, and then you're able to extract yourself from that. And to your point, what was the word you just used? To be able to, well, basically navigate these times without getting enmeshed in it, and then doing the judgments and the fight and the strife, and then you get pulled into all of that. So stepping back and being, again, that observer of the thing and not doing the judgment, because where you start doing the judgment is where you start getting mixed up into well, we don't know right now. It's the upside down. So why would you pick a side? The duality. Why would you pick the side? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Now is a very good time to go in.
Yes.
To go in. Because you have realized that in a world of illusion, the information that you receive outside of yourself is the very tool that is used for the magic show. Okay. So as much as you want to base your information knowledge on to make choices outside of yourself, the more you will be basing it in illusion. You must draw back into who you are at your core, your soul being, to feel. You need to feel your way through this more than watching and listening through your eyes and your ears.
Exactly. It's the heart. It's coming from the heart space versus the thinking mind space. Yes. And it's interesting. I've been really going through that a lot lately with some circumstances in my journey of how you literally do feel different when you say to yourself, okay, whoops, because I'm in my head a lot. So I'm in my head a lot, right? And then when I consciously, I'm going through an exercise now of living more from my heart, but you can feel it. You can feel the difference when you consciously say, wait, how does my heart feel about that? And it feels completely different as far as just either about a person or a situation or a choice I need to make. So what we also want to say is what this doesn't mean is we go in and we isolate ourselves from the whole world.
No.
That's not the
No.
case. It's making these choices and these decisions from our inner heart self versus
Yes. And actually
externalizing.
the more contracted, it's so funny. Everything, as you go through this process, you start to learn some of these things that you're told, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what that means. But now it's starting to become clear. They say everything you need is within you. And so, like you said, you don't want to contract yourself. The more contracted state is the state in which we are looking for information outside of ourselves in 3D. Inside, what do they say about inside? The universe is inside of you, right?
And we just have to tap into it.
You go in, you're actually expanding yourself.
Yes.
Okay. It's being outwardly focused into this illusion is where the contraction occurs. So as you withdraw your energy from this and go inside, you get into a massive expansion of the universe within you. Okay. Exactly. So I know we're speaking in metaphor, but energetically and consciously speaking, if you want to direct your energy and your consciousness, it's a visualization to help you do that. But going through that process, you will feel and start to see exactly what it means.
Yes. And what they just said to me is this is where your field expands.
Yes.
We have expansion of our energetic field, our auric field. We were able to, what they're showing me now is, wow, that's really interesting. Per what you just said, it expands our energy field out so that we actually have more, they just said reach.
Yes.
As we start responding from the universe within us. And we tap into all of that inner, and it's not, this is so interesting. So this is what they're now saying is, well, no, this isn't about going in and being a monk and going on a high mountaintop and excluding yourself from everyone. This is about taking what the monk finds in their journey to just self and that aloneness. This is bringing the monk's way of thinking and feeling and that inner knowing to the collective, to be with the collective.
Yes,
we're absolutely not supposed to go. And yes, we do have a time in the awakening where we like to spend in isolation. And a lot of us, do that on occasion, and that's fine. But this is all about bringing that inner monk. I'll just keep saying this, right? Yeah. And where that's what used to happen. Not anymore. Now it's about bringing that inner to the rest of the collective, so that you then expand your field and you're able to interact in a way where you're still coming from the monk in you, but you now share that expansion with the collective in whatever way that means for you and your journey.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right. So it is actually an expansion. It is a explosion of your extroverted larger being is actually what you're accessing by going in. It's trying to build the person from the illusion or what you see outside of yourselves that keeps you in a small state.
Yes.
So you don't allow this to define you. And outside this, what you're seeing out here, it's all inside you.
Yes, and what you just
and you become what you house, right? Yes. And you are the projector. So once you access all this amazing you that's inside that you've kind of your ego's been ignoring because you're so busy looking at all of this illusionary stuff going on around you. Once you go in and you access this huge being, you are the projector, right?
Yeah.
You allow the access of all of this. You realize, oh, that's me. Then your inside, your amazing inside starts to project into this illusion as well. And that's how we change this.
Yes. So what they're showing me is, as you're talking about this, you're talking about if we put ourselves into the outside world as we have, so most of humanity is done, let the external world define who we are. They're showing a trash compactor. Basically what it does is as we allow the external world and what we see out there impact us, it actually does. It brings us into that fear state. It squashes this beautiful being that we are, the universe inside of us, to this level. Because that's the whole idea, is keep us in this fear state, anger, whatever it is, frustration, duality, fight, flight, all that. But then when we so that's the external world. It's the trash compactor
It is.
of our own selves. It just
It
squeezes us.
is.
And now in this journey of awakening, as we're moving into the new earth times,
Mhm.
we're expanding past that, which is why it's so important. We're reclaiming that. That's why it's so important to not let the external world drive our thoughts and feelings.
Mhm, mhm. Some of the things that go on in this world, in order to actually get in and look at it, you've got to make yourself really smaller than you are, right? So it's so dense and so small and so low, you've got to kind of, so this is, I don't know if you remember this, about when we were having a conversation, I'm like, I don't know, something weird happened. And they were showing you Alice down the rabbit hole had made herself small to get into this tiny place. But at some point, the potion wore off. And
Yes.
she's in the house and she blew up and was wearing the house like a shirt. Remember?
Yes. And that's a great
This
metaphor for this whole thing.
Yes. So being in this, you have to, like, even to be involved in some of this external stuff, you have to like make yourself little to get into it. And what I'm saying is, I mean, you might have wanted just to see it. I don't know. Your soul's curious, but don't allow yourself to think that's actually who you are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Stay within your larger being. We're going to bring this thing back out, right?
Yes.
Expand. My son, he's so funny. So he's that's his way of agreeing. It's some of the things I'm saying, but
yeah. So I don't want to miss the whole Mars connection here, but I think we need to kind of, like, I'm a little confused on that as to what we're talking about and how that's connected to this. I mean, I know
it is one of the
for other people.
Yeah, and it is one of the one of the many things that's going on kind of in galactic, in different planes. There's different scenarios, different potentials playing out in different planes. So it's not that we necessarily need to focus on that, but that was one of the things that I saw, that it was a synchronicity within my life. And I knew, and I immediately felt, that's Mars. That's what's happening there.
Okay.
And it made me think, we all need to, what is the learning in this? We all need to calm down and realize at the end of the day, we all come from the same energy. Yes. We all come from one, right? The one. So as we're playing out in this duality, it's not always easy, because there's stuff happening here that is, here and, on other planets, it's difficult. There's wars happening. There's people suffering. There's, power grabs. There's things going on everywhere. Yeah. So,
but you know what I just got? Okay, so what they're talking about is the September video we talked about, or that just went out for me, the energy update. But they're talking about this swirl right now of, they're talking about the upside down, and they're like, it's going to shake out. Right now, you don't know what's what. You don't know, like, people want to try to put things into good, bad category per what we just talked about, but it's doing so much of this, it's going to spit out eventually, right? It's going to shake out eventually. But in the meantime, we're not to get caught in that, because it's almost like this is a really organic thing that's happening with, it's like they just said a mix master, and they're also showing a blender, like throwing it all in at once to spit out once and for all.
Yeah. And not much of this are things being flipped right back upside. Things that were once upside down are being flipped upright. Things that were once inside out are being turned right back out. Things that were, we've seen all of these metaphoric things, even with me and my body feeling a lot of it, which was, a lot of what our communication has been over the last couple of years, is how this is physically playing on my body and how I need to handle it. But there was so much flipping, inverting, go inside out kind of things, that those are some of the things we're seeing being reversed. So
right. And I think what we're seeing too is the beginnings of, we talked, what you just talked about was things being right-sided up and then upside down. But we have that happening, but we also have all this new energy creating new too.
Yes.
Not just this part. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed. And I think some of the creative energy, the pure source energy, the divine blueprints, the things that are so prevalent and coming in on such a amazing, intense level, are almost the magnetic the magnetic energy that is, I don't know if you've ever seen these things, like different types of like base magnets with like just scattered magnets, and you can put it on the base, and because of the design that is within the magnet, all those little pieces go into this amazing shape.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because of the frequency of the magnet that's in the bottom, they take all of this mess and confusion and put it on this base magnet, and it makes this perfect little swirling shape, right? Because of what's coming out of this magnet here.
Yes.
This magnet here is kind of what I look at as the source energy, the divine blueprint. These energies that are coming in force and coming through us is this magnet.
Okay.
And
So
this magnet is taking all this chaos and it's bringing it all back into the divine blueprint.
Okay. So this is great. You brought this up, because what's been happening to me lately, and I also mentioned it in the video, is I am being guided. They keep talking about magnetism. They keep wanting me to understand magnetism from a science perspective, which I've had no time to do, but it came up in the video. I mean, so magnetism, this is a big theme. There's something here. Maybe we need to pursue this conversation, because they're very much talking about magnetism. And so and then they were talking about the poles as well. And I don't mean the earth poles, but magnetism in general, and how things magnetize. And one of the things they'd shown me is talking about how, well, I'm going to get into the science part of this, which I don't even understand. So anyway, do you want to talk, like, tell me more about what you're.
Well, magnetism, even with me, was some of the stuff we were talking about with the divine masculine and feminine. They were showing me that I believe the feminine type energy is more of the magnetic, and the masculine, I believe, is more of the electric. I mean, it's not, I don't necessarily mean to make it like a mate thing, but there is energies. You know how I always say that no matter what we get into, there's always kind of like a central theme running, right? There is a need to balance the magnetic, the electric, the feminine, the masculine, the positive and negative polarities, right?
This is what they're talking about. They were talking about the poles, the positive and negative. And yes, exactly. And my frame of reference at the time for what they were giving me had to do with the idea of relationship in 3D, but it applies to everything else.
Sure. Oh yeah, it applies to everything really, but there are different ways that we can associate to it, metaphoric or in real life, or real situations, to help us understand the underlying principle of the energy. But I think that some of the magnetic right now is the divine or the original plan. It is magnetizing almost in pieces the whole situation back to its original. So it's happening.
Yeah.
So, but as it's swirling and undoing, things appear to be very sometimes chaotic, or the opposite of actually what is occurring. It may look like a catastrophe, but it's actually the reversal of something that's going to be beautiful in a minute.
Totally agree.
Right?
Because as we've talked, we have to do the reversal part of that. It has to, and they always bring this back to, they say 0 point, but honestly, Carolyn doesn't know if that's the right way of explaining it, but what they're saying is it has to come back to that set point, that new set point, where it's almost like it didn't happen. Does that make sense? It like negates what occurred, because again, that's the balance to the point. And then they always bring in eventually that's what will happen with everything. It'll go into this vortex, into this point, and then we're back to source. I know that sounds a little trippy, but it's about, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we're moving in that direction right now, though. But so let me ask you this, because I want to tell you what I'm getting as a visual, which won't leave me. One of the, so they're like two cells in a way, all right, but they're showing right now where we are is, and if they're talking about magnetics here, one cell is much brighter than the other, and it's saying it's going to pull the others, and you can argue these are light workers, these are us, this is pulling the rest of the collective along, whatever it is, the divine feminine pulling in whatever it is, I don't know. But point is I think it's everything, where there's this strong sense of magnetics that are really strong here, that's pulling in the other. Can you help with that, to help people understand is that even relevant to you and what I'm talking about?
Um, it is in a way. I'm trying to kind of put it into context for something that I could relate.
Yes.
But it is that is what is felt right now. I feel like there is. Um, okay, so like for instance, a story. So if you were to say there are pieces and parts of source, which everybody is, that decided or found themselves in a fall situation, that their return to one would need to be a magnetic return. Okay, so they are being magnetically pulled to their true origin.
There we
So
go.
that's what I would see as the two things coming back together. But the magnetic is doing most of the work, if that makes sense to you.
Yes.
Now, density, this is another way to look at darkness. Okay. I've heard like a light is information.
Yes.
Information packed super dense becomes dark.
Mark.
So darkness is almost like intensely packed information. So if you were to say, okay, I'm going to stay here, you go out. I'm going to keep half, you keep half, or we're going to become two. And I'm going to stay here and I'm going to hold and I'm going to let you go out and explore everything you can do and gather as much experience, information that you possibly can. And I'm going to be here waiting, magnetically pulling you back to home all the time. Okay. So I let this one go. They go out and they, these huge big beings that we are, we go out, we're massive overachievers. You send them out, they're going to go to the deepest steps and look at everything, right? Mm-hmm. Collect all this information. They come back looking very, very dark because they are densely packed with information, but they are also kind of cut off from where they came from, their origin. So I am staying back as the light one, and I'm going to be magnetically pulling you back to me all the time.
It's that holding
whether
space.
You're aware of it or not, right?
Yes.
But you're bringing back this massive treasure trove of experience, information, and for the expansion of all that is, right? As we come, but it's almost like you have two cells as a not a precautionary measure, but as a balance.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And so that relates to so many scenarios, but it also relates to us as individuals.
Yes, that's correct.
Because we're talking the two that you just talked about are actually us individually.
Mm-hmm. Some of us talk about it as the shadow, for instance, your shadow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and so they're showing me a visual of the one. They're kind of doing a Lord of the Rings thing here, but you remember the elves, the elfin, the light that they had, and they're beautiful, but they would go out into battle, remember? Or they would go out into the rest of the world. Okay, so what they're showing me is, so basically what we do is we have the strength of ourself, but then that other piece that holds space, that's grounded, that kind of waits at home, but sends the other out for the information and living in the 3D world, but gets all gunked up and dark and full of information, but then comes back, and then they keep saying repeats the process, but when it comes back in, it like reintegrates and clears and cleanses and reintegrates and then grounds again to be able to go back out. Does that, what is that? What am I getting?
I think that's a lot of, you kind of think about it. A lot of times they say, some people call it a twin, your counterpart, it is the kind of your guardian. It could be your guardian. Some people might even see it as your guardian angel, your higher self. It is it's like the tether to the mothership. You're going out to explore, but you're tethered to and
then you start to become consciously aware of that. So I think when you go through this awakening process consciously, you realize that you can still go out in the world, okay? Because now I'm bringing that down to 3D. You go out in the world, but then you come back and you center yourself in to your deepest self. You're working from this space, but you come back center, you do your meditations, you do your clearings, all of that, and then you keep that light going, and then you go back out again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like truly in 3D.
Right. Yeah. So I think a lot of times when we say there's a separation, there's that, well, this is true, But it's also one of those things to keep in mind. It's not always easy to do that either. Sometimes in this, I'm not enjoying this. I don't want to be doing this. I'm kind of done with this. I want to move out of this. This doesn't feel good to me. So, whatever we were here to pick up and learn, okay, let's move. So it's not that I'm saying that, oh, just ignore it. I realize it feels very real to us. It is very real to us, but try to always, I think, to help you manage that, try to always remember that you are a part of a much larger being. And there is a lot of this stuff going on here, but if you don't necessarily have to be affected by it. That's part of the waking up. That's one of the gifts of waking up, is you can start to disengage and not allow it to affect you.
Yes.
At a level of when you start to understand kind of this setup, and you can start to withdraw your energy from it.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So maybe the dark light is, and some of these, like we are worried about, some people are worried about others. It might be very lost or not waking up. I think that is also a very nice analogy to show us, no matter whether they're aware of it or not, they're always being drawn back home.
Yes, and that's
right?
that. Okay, so that ties directly to the visual of this light, meaning the individuals, the back home, and they're always being drawn, like they're getting pulled, and they're showing that now, like the magnetism of being pulled our way, if that makes sense, pulled back or pulled their own way, pulled back to their own source. However you want to look at it, but pulled to the light. Yes.
Yes. So it's that magnetism that is the pulling force. And, that's why they're saying everyone's going, whether, because sometimes we get worried, oh, my husband's not waking up, or my friends, my family, they don't understand. And they always say, don't worry about anybody else, you worry about you. Right. Because it's going to happen whether they are aware of it or not.
Exactly.
But the gift of waking up and being aware of it is that you can start just pulling your energy out of it and understanding it and actively engaging and participating in the process of reuniting. Right.
Because basically what you're doing is now you're consciously aware, so you can make conscious choices about how you participate.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right. But everybody is being magnetized back. So don't worry if they're not on board, and meditating and doing everything, and they don't seem to be waking up or understanding it. Don't worry, it's still happening.
Because every single person has a higher self and is the same inside. You know what I mean? So yes, it's all in due time.
Yeah, and ultimately we're all one.
Right. Right.
So it's I think that might be, but it's hard. It's in separation. It feels like we did a good job creating separation. Let me just put it that way, if you want to put a little silver lining on it. So it feels very real. So I'm not discounting the way people feel, because I understand. I'm there with you. Right. I'm just trying to, even for myself, give myself the bigger picture perspective. So that I can navigate this and be more of a conscious creator within the process. My goodness. Okay, let me just tell you this. Okay, this is kind of going into more of our session stuff. Remember when, several times throughout this year and a half, 2 years, I kept telling you, I was running into beings that were saying, you've been gone. We didn't, when you left, we've been missing for years, or you've been gone, or everything changed when you left, or, and I've been having this happen to me repeatedly. And I just thought, okay, I'm just repeating something, but now I'm realizing this is happening as if I'm a different being. So sometimes it's a partner, sometimes it's coworkers, sometimes it's almost like I feel like I'm like it would be like a commander of a fleet.
Oh, so like you're like taking on a kind of a different persona, you mean? Or
I think that there are so many facets to my being.
Oh, yeah.
And all of them disappeared kind of at the same time.
Oh, and they're all being brought back together.
And I'm experiencing their reunion or their reappearance to whomever they left, sometimes separately. So I'm hearing different things from different types of energies, coworkers, spouses, families. Some of them, and the disappearance was done. It happened in a different way. And so I'm throwing that out just because I find it interesting. I'm just starting to realize it's not just me. It's not just one me. I'm having this experience, this reuniting experience
Okay.
with multiple
So this
people.
is okay. So I can validate that this is information I've received in past life work that I do. And
Okay.
what they've said is and I've had it happen too, all our past lives, well, all our past lives, whatever, we're reintegrating back into the oneness of who we are, which includes past life memories and being able to bring those. And you can argue it's always with us, but there's something different that's happening. It's the reintegration into the one.
Okay.
It's like what you're talking about, but they explain it a little differently, and they usually explain it through past lives for me.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, but it is completely a reintegration, because now they're showing it to me like a reintegration of who we are, which is why people's past lives are coming up so much now, or their feelings of it, not knowing it's past life. But to your point, feeling like parts of you are showing back up again. Is that that's what you're saying, right?
It's parts of me that I'm actually having the experience of being the one that was like I went missing. Oh, you know what else? Oh my God, there's another one about the rapture. This rapture thing. Okay, you and I talked about this one thing, like I felt like all of this stuff left my body.
Yeah.
And you saw it like they were sucked through a horn.
Yes.
Right? And then you saw them kind of being blown back in at one time. That's tied to whatever this rapture thing is, whatever this event rapture is. It's a trumpet sounds. That's just the horn they were showing you, a trumpet.
No, I remember that. I'm just trying to get a sense of.
I wasn't sure what was going on there. Okay, so they were even using this word at the time. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. So that's already played out for me like a year, I don't know, a year and a half ago almost was that when that happened to me on this level. So I'm not sure what that will look like for the collective at this point either, if that's going to be I don't know. I'm still kind of kicking that around, but I see that is now starting to appear in some of the media or some of the other channelings that are coming through. That's a common theme that is coming up, something about rapture. I'm like, you and I have already talked about this a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So, but they were saying that they felt like they were pulled out very quickly, and then they couldn't re-enter because of whatever they said, because of the state you were in. We had to watch from the sidelines.
Yeah.
But at some point, they'd all be pushed back in.
Yeah.
Like blown back into home, basically.
So, and it's, you know what they just said to me? They've been saying this, and I'm like not saying it because I don't understand how it's relating. They're talking about breath of life. They keep saying breath of life, being blown back in, like breath of life. Don't ask. I don't know. I feel like that's what they just keep saying, like with the trumpet and everything, breath of life, like our rebirth.
Yes.
And
so I think, mostly in this is looking at some of the stuff that's playing out around us and trying to remember and stay in a balanced observer role,
right,
where you are using your discernment as it is your lifeline. You're not listening to other things. You're not believing the illusion. You're at a magic show at this point.
Yes.
Okay. Our team, remember, they were saying, get ready for high strangeness.
Yeah.
Okay. That is what is occurring now. Your core is your lifeline at this point. You stay in your core and your integrity, and don't allow yourself to be swayed or tricked.
Right.
With the magic show going on.
Right. And that ties really directly to this, the information that I've received, but it's even stronger right now, is based on kind of how we've talked about it, is that's all going on out there. But guess what? In the meantime, you can be off in the corner creating your own new reality, which ultimately creates a new earth, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So if we are hanging out going, you know what, I'm going to leave this party for a minute.
Yes.
I'm going off and I'm going to go hang in the garden or whatever. And you know what's going on over here, and you don't want anything to do with it because they're all getting drunk, and you don't want to get drunk, and they're all loud and there's too much music, and you're like, I'm going over here. And that's where you're creating your own new reality, while that swirl of a hot mess is going on and everybody's throwing their keys into a pot to pick out, and all the
Exactly.
nightmares.
Oh my
But
God.
seriously, and so then basically leaving to go, because that's the key right now. That's where we are. I
Yes.
mean, it's that know when to extract yourself. Yeah, you might go to the party, but
Mhm.
you got to know when to extract yourself and understand, because
Mhm.
going to the party is living in 3D. Because, unless you go be the monk at the top of the mountain, we still
Mhm.
have to interact with others. And we're not meant to be the monk in the mountain anymore.
Well, the true master is the monk that can walk through the party.
Yes, exactly. And that's
Right.
what we're doing. That's
Mhm.
what we're doing right now. So what we're
Mhm.
doing, and I'm so glad you brought that up, is yeah, you're in that party
Mhm.
and you're working on being the monk, and you got to know when to go. I got to leave this party because I got to go do this over here now. And
Or
then
yeah.
you
And
keep
don't allow anything going on at the party. You're, as we said, like being an observer, don't allow anything at the party to sway you off your center. Wow. Don't allow it to pull you from what
yes,
you're seeing, because what you're seeing right now is not what it seems to be.
exactly. And
So
I will take the keys part out, just so you know. I just thought that was
you're because that's going on too, Carolyn. I
yeah,
hate to tell you, but
probably
that's actually part of this.
probably yeah.
But it's but you're absolutely correct in the sense that it's just is don't allow yourself to lose your purity, your true beauty, your because it's easy right now. I think it's in ways I have struggled with this myself, to not become discouraged. Do not
Totally.
allow yourself to become hopeless. Think that there's just no way, it's gone too far. We can't get back from this. Is just, and that's the kind of energy that is around. That's the kind of, you see something and you think, oh, you don't allow yourself to be fooled by that.
No.
Even when things look crazy, oh, they're breaking down doors to make people do whatever.
Yes.
It looks bad.
Yeah.
Don't engage it. Don't engage yourself as that is the truth of what's happening.
No, because
Right?
honestly, right now,
Stay in the core.
completely honestly right now, and we talked a lot about this in the videos that when I've channeled previously, is the I said this earlier, is not getting stuck in the news, not getting stuck, because it's just going to keep getting more and more. Because honestly right now, I don't have a clue what's going on out there. I know I don't have a clue. And I think it's been really good for me to be able to not even step my toe in for a while, and to be
Yes.
able to just let things happen. And, a lot of people would say, well, that's just like an ostrich with your head in the sand.
No, it's
Or
not.
you mean you don't know what's going on in the real world? And I'm like, that's not the real world. Well, that's
Yeah.
not for me. But to that end, knowing when to be able to step in, and also knowing when to step out, so that you can continue creating, or not creating, but reclaiming yourself to create your new self, your new life, and which in turn manifests the outside new earth.
Well, what you're doing by holding your center, by holding your integrity, by holding the truth of who you are being that magnet.
That's it. Okay.
You are
Thank
being the
you. That's a
magnet.
great way to wrap that up, because that's what that metaphor has been showing us. And then to think you bring that up, you are being the
Yes.
magnet then.
You are that light magnet pulling this through. So
Yep, that validates the channel that just went out this week for September. It just validates everything. Okay, there's the video for today. I hope you've taken some nugget of understanding that's either new, or helps validate something you've been thinking about, or just opens up your mind to other considerations. And I'll leave you today with my services at purplerainhealing.com. I channel in all of my services, where you're able to get a conversation with me back and forth, where I help facilitate that conversation with your spirit team, your angels and your guides, and your higher self. Additionally, I also offer documents where I channel information. Depends on what you want. And then I offer spiritual awakening mentoring, where I help assist you along your awakening and ascension journey, offering you guidance forward from your team, as well as from experiences that I've had in my journey. So join me there. Check out purplerainhealing.com. I would absolutely love to channel information for you and work with you one-on-one. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.